The waters of Luzon Strait moved in dark swells beneath a moonless sky on the night of October 23, 1944. 30 fathoms below the surface, USS Tang carved through the thermocline like a steel predator, her diesel engine silent, running on battery power alone. Commander Richard O'Kane pressed his eye to the periscope lens, sweeping the horizon methodically. The submarine war in the Pacific had reached its deadliest phase, and tonight the wolf packs were hunting. Far above, stretching across 12 miles of black ocean, the largest Japanese convoy attempt of the autumn moved through waters they believed secure. 23 merchant vessels, for destroyers, 2 destroyer escorts, and a light cruiser formed a protective screen around tankers loaded with aviation fuel, transports carrying replacement aircraft, and cargo ships laden with raw materials desperately needed in the Philippines. The convoy, designated Mata 27, represented Japan's most critical supply line to their crumbling Pacific fortress. Captain Hiroshi Nakamura stood on the bridge of destroyer Nawaki, lead escort for the convoy. The 30-year veteran of the Imperial Japanese Navy had survived 3 years of Pacific warfare, watching his nation's merchant marines systematically destroyed by American submarine wolf packs. Tonight felt different. Intelligence indicated increased submarine activity near Luzon Strait, but the convoy's size and escort strength should deter any attack. 23 ships meant thousands of tons of supplies for General Yamashita's defense of the Philippines. Nakamura studied the convoy formation through binoculars. The merchant ships maintained proper spacing, their blackout discipline excellent. No running lights betrayed their position to prowling submarines. The destroyer screen formed a protective diamond around the formation, with Nawaki at point position. Destroyer hammockes covered the starboard flank, while isoques patrolled port. The stern position fell to destroyer Yukikes, veteran of countless actions. Light cruiser Agano served as flagship, her advanced radar scanning for surface contacts. What Captain Nakamura could not know was that beneath the surface, 4 American submarines had been tracking the convoy for 18 hours. USS Tang, USS Trigger, USS Wahoo, and USS Silversides formed a coordinated wolf pack under the tactical command of Commander O'Kane. The submarines maintained radio silence, communicating through predetermined attack positions based on convoy speed and heading. Each submarine carried 24 torpedoes, enough firepower to obliterate the entire merchant formation. The wolf pack concept had evolved from German U-boat tactics, adapted for Pacific distances and Japanese convoy procedures. American submarines operated with devastating effectiveness in the confined waters around the Philippines, where Japanese shipping concentrated in predictable corridors. Luzon Strait represented the primary passage between the South China Sea and Philippine Sea, making it perfect hunting grounds for submarine wolf packs. Commander O'Kane lowered the periscope and consulted his plotting table. Tang had maintained sonar contact with the convoy for 6 hours, carefully tracking the formation's course and speed. The Japanese ships proceeded at 8 knots, zigzagging minimally to conserve fuel. Their escort pattern followed standard Imperial Navy doctrine, with destroyers positioned at regular intervals around the merchant vessels. Such predictability would prove fatal. At 2,147 hours, O'Kane received the coded signal he had been waiting for. 3 short sonar pings indicated the other wolf pack members had reached their assigned attack positions. Trigger would assault the convoy's starboard flank, while Wahoo targeted the port formation. Silversides positioned herself astern to catch any vessels attempting to scatter. Tang would penetrate the escort screen and attack the convoy center, where the largest tankers sailed. The American submarine offensive against Japanese shipping had reached unprecedented intensity by October 1944. American wolf packs operated throughout the Western Pacific, systematically destroying Japan's merchant marine. The island empire's economy depended entirely on seaborne imports of raw materials, food, and fuel. Every cargo ship sunk brought Japan closer to starvation and industrial collapse. The submarine war had become a campaign of economic strangulation. Lieutenant Commander Jack Meyer, executive officer of USS Trigger, watched his captain prepare for the attack. Commander Roy Benson had led Trigger through 8 war patrols, sinking 47 enemy vessels. Tonight's convoy represented the largest target Trigger had encountered, with potential for devastating damage to Japanese logistics. The submarine's crew moved through their attack stations with practiced efficiency, each man understanding his role in the coming assault. Trigger carried Mark 18 electric torpedoes, weapons that left no wake to betray their approach. The electric fish ran silently through the water, guided by sophisticated gyroscopic systems that could calculate target course and speed automatically. Each torpedo packed 643 pounds of Torpex explosive, enough to break a merchant ship in half. Trigger's torpedo room held 24 such weapons, each one representing a potential kill. On the surface, the Japanese convoy maintained its vulnerable formation. The merchant ships presented perfect broadside targets to the submerged submarines, their hulls outlined against the slightly lighter sky. Captain Nakamura's destroyers patrolled methodically, but their sonar sweeps failed to detect the submarines lying motionless beneath the thermocline. The layer of temperature difference scattered sonar pulses, creating an acoustic shadow where submarines could hide. The first attack came without warning at 2,203 hours. USS Wahoo fired a spread of 6 torpedoes at the convoy's port flank from a range of 2,800 yards. The electric torpedoes streaked through the darkness, their magnetic influence exploders set to detonate beneath enemy hulls. Tanker Kokai Maru, loaded with 8,000 tons of aviation gasoline, never saw death approaching. The explosion lifted Kokai Maru's stern completely out of the water. Aviation fuel ignited in a fireball that illuminated the entire convoy formation, turning night into blazing day. The tanker broke in half, her bow section sinking immediately while the stern remained afloat, burning like a giant torch. The concussion shattered windows on nearby merchant ships and knocked sailors off their feet. Captain Nakamura watched in horror as his convoy came under attack. The burning tanker revealed the positions of every merchant ship to prowling submarines. On destroyer Nawaki's bridge, the general alarm sounded as the crew rushed to battle stations. Nakamura ordered an immediate course change, hoping to scatter the formation before more torpedoes found their targets. His radio crackled with urgent reports from other escort vessels. USS Trigger struck next, firing 4 torpedoes at cargo ship Teo Maru from 1,900 yards. The merchant vessel, loaded with steel ingots and machinery destined for Philippine airfields, absorbed 2 torpedo hits amidships. The explosions gutted her engine room and flooded 3 cargo holds instantly. Teo Maru listed heavily to port, her crew abandoning ship as she began her death plunge to the ocean floor. The Wolfpack attack reached its crescendo as USS Tang and USS Silversides opened fire simultaneously. Tang targeted the convoy flagship, transport Aramis Maru, while Silversides engaged tanker Osaka Maru. The coordinated assault overwhelmed Japanese damage control efforts and escort defenses. Within minutes, 5 merchant ships were sinking or burning, their vital cargoes lost forever. Commander O'Kane watched through his periscope as chaos consumed the Japanese formation. Merchant ships scattered in all directions, abandoning their protective escort screen. Some vessels attempted to ram the submarines they imagined lurking nearby, while others fled toward the Philippine coast. The carefully organized convoy had disintegrated into a mob of panicked ships, each seeking individual salvation. Destroyer Hamikaze raced toward the torpedo tracks from Wahoo's attack, her sonar operator frantically searching for the submarine. Lieutenant Commander Sato knew his destroyer's only hope of protecting the convoy lay in destroying the attacking submarines before they could reload their torpedo tubes. Hamikaze's depth charge racks contained 30 Type 95 charges, each holding 220 pounds of explosive. Finding the submarines in the vast ocean would prove nearly impossible. The Japanese depth charge attack came at 2,234 hours as Hamikaze dropped a pattern of 8 charges over Wahoo's estimated position. The underwater explosions created towering geysers on the surface, but the submarine had moved beyond the blast radius. Wahoo's crew felt the shock waves through their hull as they reloaded torpedo tubes for a second attack. The Japanese escorts were fighting blind, unable to locate their submerged enemies. USS Tang prepared for her second attack run as the convoy continued to scatter. O'Kane selected tanker Kyushu Maru as his next target, a vessel carrying 9,000 tons of crude oil from the Dutch East Indies. The tanker represented a crucial link in Japan's petroleum supply chain, fuel desperately needed by the Japanese military. Tang fired 3 torpedoes at 1,200 yards, point-blank range for submarine warfare. 2 torpedoes struck Kyushu Maru in her engine room and forward cargo tanks. The explosions ignited the crude oil cargo, creating a massive fireball that could be seen for 20 miles. The tanker burned furiously as her crew abandoned ship, many sailors jumping into oil-covered water that soon caught fire. Kyushu Maru became a floating inferno, illuminating the battle scene for the continuing submarine attacks. The Wolf Pack pressed their assault with devastating effectiveness. USS Trigger engaged cargo ship Hakoku Maru, loaded with aircraft engines and spare parts for Japanese airfields in the Philippines. 3 torpedo hits broke the cargo ship's back, sending critical aviation supplies to the ocean floor. USS Silversides attacked transport Congo Maru, destroying 2,000 tons of ammunition and artillery pieces intended for General Yamashita's forces. By 2300 hours, the Japanese convoy had suffered catastrophic losses. 11 merchant ships had been sunk or were sinking, representing over 80,000 tons of shipping and vital military supplies. The Wolf Pack attack had achieved devastating success, crippling Japanese logistics in the Philippines at a critical moment. The remaining merchant ships fled in disorder, abandoning their escort screen and scattering across the South China Sea. Captain Nakamura attempted to reorganize his shattered convoy, but the task proved hopeless. His destroyers could not simultaneously hunt submarines and protect the scattered merchant ships. Radio communications had broken down as panicked captains jammed the frequencies with distress calls. The carefully planned convoy operation had collapsed into complete disaster within 2 hours of the first torpedo impact. The submarine Wolf Pack began withdrawing from the attack zone as Japanese reinforcements approached. USS Tang had expended 18 torpedoes, achieving 9 confirmed hits on enemy vessels. USS Trigger claimed 7 hits from 12 torpedoes fired, while USS Wahoo and USS Silversides recorded similar success rates. The coordinated attack represented one of the most successful submarine operations in Pacific warfare. Commander O'Kane ordered Tang to dive to 400 feet as destroyer Yukikaze approached their position. The Japanese escort was conducting an aggressive search pattern, dropping depth charges at regular intervals. Tang's crew maintained silent running procedures as the destroyer passed overhead, her screws audible through the submarine's hull. The tension was unbearable as depth charges exploded around the submarine. The depth charge attack reached its peak as Yukikaze dropped a 10-charge pattern directly over Tang's position. The explosions hammered the submarine's pressure hull, shattering light bulbs and knocking equipment off its mounts. Tang's crew fought to maintain trim as the submarine was tossed by the underwater explosions. Electrical systems flickered as the depth charges detonated with earth-shaking force. Lieutenant Commander John Harper, Tang's diving officer, struggled to keep the submarine under control as more depth charges exploded nearby. The submarine's ballast tanks had suffered minor damage, making precise depth control difficult. Harper ordered emergency repairs as Tang descended toward her crushed depth, seeking the protection of deep water where Japanese depth charges could not reach. The Wolf Pack's withdrawal phase proved as dangerous as the initial attack. Japanese destroyers saturated the area with depth charges, hoping to catch the submarines as they attempted to escape. USS Wahoo endured a particularly fierce depth charge attack from destroyer Isokais, with over 40 charges detonated around the submarine. The crew counted each explosion, wondering if the next would crush their hull. USS Trigger faced her own crisis as she attempted to withdraw from the battle zone. A jammed torpedo tube door prevented the submarine from diving to safe depth, leaving her vulnerable to Japanese depth charges. Lieutenant Commander Meyer worked frantically to clear the jam while his submarine maneuvered to avoid the searching destroyers. The torpedo tube finally closed at 300 feet, allowing Trigger to escape to deeper water. The Japanese convoy losses continued mounting throughout the night as damaged ships succumbed to their wounds. Transport Katori Maru, hit by a single torpedo from USS Silversides, burned for 3 hours before her magazine exploded. The blast could be felt 20 miles away as 1,500 tons of ammunition detonated simultaneously. No survivors were found from Katori Maru's crew of 180 men. Captain Nakamura watched helplessly as his convoy disintegrated around him. Destroyer Nowaki rescued survivors from burning merchant ships while maintaining sonar sweeps for submarines. The rescue efforts exposed his warship to further torpedo attacks, but Nakamura could not abandon the hundreds of sailors in the water. Japanese naval tradition demanded that ship captains protect their crews above all other considerations. The submarine attack had shattered more than ships and cargo. Japanese confidence in their convoy system collapsed as news of the disaster reached Manila and Tokyo. Mata 27 represented Japan's most heavily escorted convoy attempt, yet American submarines had destroyed it with apparent ease. The psychological impact proved as devastating as the material losses, convincing many Japanese officers that the submarine war was already lost. Dawn revealed the full scope of the catastrophe. 15 Japanese merchant ships had been sunk during the night, totaling 127,000 tons of shipping. The lost cargo included 50,000 tons of fuel oil, 15,000 tons of aviation gasoline, 8,000 tons of steel, 3,000 tons of ammunition, and thousands of tons of food and medical supplies. The submarines had also destroyed 150 aircraft, 40 tanks, and 60 artillery pieces being transported to the Philippines. The human cost proved equally staggering. Over 1,200 Japanese merchant seamen died in the attack, along with 400 naval personnel and 800 army troops being transported to the Philippines. Many sailors drowned in oil-covered water that caught fire from burning ships. Others died of exposure during the long night in life rafts, waiting for rescue that came too late or never arrived at all. USS Tang surfaced at dawn to survey the aftermath of the attack. The ocean was covered with debris from destroyed ships, life rafts filled with survivors, and patches of burning oil that continued to smolder. Commander O'Kane ordered his crew to photograph the destruction for intelligence purposes while maintaining watch for Japanese aircraft. The submarine could not risk remaining on the surface for long. The Wolf Pack's success exceeded all expectations, but the cost to Japanese morale proved immeasurable. Radio intercepts revealed panic in Japanese naval commands as reports of the convoy's destruction reached headquarters. Emperor Hirohito himself demanded explanations for the catastrophic losses, leading to the dismissal of several senior naval officers responsible for convoy protection. Admiral Somu Toyota, commander of the combined fleet, realized that Japan's merchant marine could not sustain such losses indefinitely. The submarine wolf packs were destroying ships faster than Japanese shipyards could replace them. Each convoy attack reduced Japan's ability to supply her far-flung empire, hastening the ultimate collapse of Japanese resistance in the Pacific. The strategic implications of the Luzon Strait attack rippled throughout the Pacific theater. General Douglas MacArthur's forces preparing to invade the Philippines would face reduced Japanese resistance due to the lost supplies. The destroyed aviation fuel would limit Japanese air operations during the crucial landing phase. Artillery pieces and ammunition lying on the ocean floor could not defend Japanese positions on Luzon. Captain Nakamura's surviving destroyers conducted search and rescue operations throughout the following day. Nowaki, Hamikes, and Yukikes rescued 800 survivors from the water, but hundreds more had already perished in the oil-covered sea. The destroyer captains filed detailed reports of the attack, emphasizing the coordinated nature of the submarine assault and the ineffectiveness of current escort procedures. The Wolf-Pack submarines rendezvoused 200 miles east of Luzon to assess their success and share intelligence. Commander USS Tang had suffered minor damage from depth charges but remained fully operational. USS Trigger reported hydraulic problems that would require repair at Guam. USS Wahoo and USS Silversides had emerged from the battle unscathed, ready for immediate redeployment against Japanese shipping. The ammunition expenditure proved remarkably efficient. The 4 submarines had fired 68 torpedoes and achieved 43 hits, a success rate of 63%. Such accuracy demonstrated the effectiveness of improved torpedo technology and better fire control systems. The Mark 18 electric torpedoes had performed flawlessly, their magnetic influence exploders functioning as designed without premature detonations. Japanese naval intelligence struggled to understand how American submarines had achieved such devastating success. The Wolf-Pack concept remained poorly understood in Japanese circles, where individual submarine attacks were the norm. The coordinated assault pattern had overwhelmed escort defenses designed to counter single submarine threats. Japanese anti-submarine doctrine required immediate revision. The convoy attack marked a turning point in the Pacific Submarine War. Japanese shipping losses accelerated as American Wolf-Packs refined their tactics and increased their operational tempo. The destruction of Mata 27 demonstrated that no Japanese convoy was safe from submarine attack, regardless of escort strength or defensive measures. The ocean had become a hunting ground where American submarines held absolute advantage. Lieutenant Commander William Post, commanding USS Wahoo, filed a detailed patrol report describing the attack methods and results. His submarine had achieved 7 confirmed sinkings while expending only 16 torpedoes. The Wolf-Pack coordination had allowed each submarine to attack different convoy sections simultaneously, preventing Japanese escorts from concentrating their defensive efforts. Such tactics would become standard procedure for future operations. The Japanese response to the convoy disaster revealed deep flaws in their anti-submarine capability. Destroyer crews lacked proper training in coordinated depth charge attacks, while sonar equipment remained inferior to American systems. Japanese naval aviation provided inadequate coverage of convoy routes, allowing American submarines to operate with virtual impunity in critical shipping lanes. Admiral Chester Nimitz received reports of the Luzon Strait attack with tremendous satisfaction. Pacific Fleet submarines were systematically destroying Japan's ability to maintain her overseas empire. The convoy attack represented exactly the type of coordinated operation that Pacific Fleet doctrine emphasized. Every Japanese ship sent to the bottom shortened the war and saved American lives. The wolf pack withdrawal proved as meticulously planned as the initial attack. Each submarine proceeded to separate patrol areas to avoid Japanese retaliation sweeps. USS Tang headed for the Taiwan Strait to intercept shipping between China and Japan. USS Trigger set course for the Ryukyu Islands, where Japanese supply lines remained vulnerable. USS Wahoo and USS Silversides would patrol the South China Sea, hunting individual targets. Japanese convoy operations never recovered from the psychological impact of the Mata 27 disaster. Subsequent convoys sailed with maximum possible escort strength, reducing cargo capacity and increasing fuel consumption. Many merchant captains refused to sail without destroyer protection, creating bottlenecks in Japanese shipping schedules. The submarine threat had achieved strategic paralysis of enemy logistics. The technological superiority of American submarines became increasingly apparent as the war progressed. Radar systems allowed night surface attacks with devastating accuracy, while improved sonar provided underwater tracking capability that Japanese anti-submarine forces could not counter. American torpedo technology had evolved beyond Japanese countermeasures, achieving reliability rates that made every shot potentially lethal. Commander O'Kane's post-battle analysis identified several factors contributing to the wolf pack success. Excellent intelligence on Japanese convoy routes allowed optimal positioning before the attack. Coordinated timing prevented mutual interference between submarines while maximizing target confusion. Silent electric torpedoes eliminated wake detection by Japanese lookouts. Disciplined communication security maintained tactical surprise until the moment of attack. The crew morale aboard USS Tang reached exceptional levels following the successful convoy attack. Each torpedo hit represented saved American lives as Japanese supplies failed to reach their intended destinations. The submarine war had become intensely personal for American crews, who understood that every enemy ship sunk brought victory closer. Such motivation proved invaluable during long patrols in hostile waters. The strategic bombing campaign against Japan would eventually receive more attention from historians, but submarine warfare proved equally decisive in defeating the Japanese Empire. The destruction of enemy shipping strangled Japanese industry and military operations more effectively than any bombing raid. Every cargo vessel lying on the ocean floor represented irreplaceable losses that Japan could never recover. Japanese attempts to develop convoy tactics remained unsuccessful throughout 1944 and 1945. The Imperial Navy lacked sufficient destroyers to provide adequate protection for merchant shipping, while American submarine production continued accelerating. Each month brought more submarine wolf packs to the Pacific, hunting in ever-widening patrol areas around the Japanese Empire. The Luzon Strait attack demonstrated that American submarine commanders had mastered the art of coordinated operations. Previous submarine attacks relied on individual initiative and opportunistic targeting. The wolf pack concept allowed multiple submarines to concentrate against single convoys, overwhelming defensive measures through sheer firepower and tactical coordination. Such methods revolutionized undersea warfare. Captain Nakamura survived the convoy disaster but never received another command assignment. Japanese naval leadership blamed escort commanders for the catastrophic losses, ignoring systemic failures in anti-submarine doctrine and equipment. Nakamura spent the remainder of the war training replacement crews for destroyers that increasingly sailed without returning to port. The merchant marine casualties from the convoy attack represented a cross-section of Japanese society. Experienced seamen who had served since before the war died alongside teenagers pressed into service as the shipping crisis deepened. Many vessels carried civilian passengers evacuating from the Philippines, including women and children who perished when their ships exploded or burned. The oil slicks from destroyed tankers continued burning for weeks after the attack, creating navigational hazards and environmental damage that persisted long after the war ended. Local fishing communities suffered severe economic losses as petroleum contamination destroyed marine ecosystems. The convoy attack had consequences that extended far beyond immediate military objectives. USS Tang's crew celebrated their success with traditional submarine warfare rituals. A broom tied to the periscope symbolized a clean sweep of enemy shipping, while victory flags displayed the tonnage sunk during the patrol. Such ceremonies maintained crew morale during extended operations in dangerous waters, reinforcing the submarine's fighting effectiveness and unit cohesion. The intelligence value of the convoy attack proved as significant as the material damage inflicted. Captured documents from destroyed ships revealed Japanese supply priorities and shipping schedules. American codebreakers used this information to predict future convoy movements, enabling additional submarine ambushes throughout the Western Pacific. Knowledge proved as deadly as torpedoes in submarine warfare. Medical personnel aboard the Japanese destroyers worked desperately to save survivors pulled from the burning sea. Many rescued sailors suffered severe burns from flaming oil, while others showed symptoms of shock and hypothermia. The destroyer sick bays became overwhelmed with casualties as rescue operations continued throughout the night and following day. The wolf pack concept required exceptional navigation and communication skills from submarine commanders. Each vessel had to maintain precise positioning relative to the convoy and other submarines while operating under radio silence. The coordination achieved during the Luzon Strait attack demonstrated the high quality of American submarine training and leadership development. Japanese civilian morale suffered tremendously as news of shipping losses reached the home islands. Rationing increased in severity as imported food and raw materials became scarce. Factory production declined as essential materials failed to arrive from overseas territories. The submarine blockade was slowly strangling Japanese society as effectively as it crippled military operations. The convoy attack highlighted the vulnerability of Japanese logistics in the Pacific theater. American submarines could operate with near impunity in waters that Japan considered secure, threatening any vessel that ventured beyond coastal areas. The psychological impact on Japanese shipping crews proved as devastating as the physical destruction of vessels and cargo. Post-war analysis revealed that submarine warfare contributed more to Japanese defeat than any other single factor. The destruction of merchant shipping crippled Japanese industry, reduced military effectiveness, and demoralized the civilian population. Operations like the Luzon Strait attack represented the culmination of 3 years of submarine warfare development and tactical refinement. The survivors of the convoy attack would carry memories of that terrible night for the rest of their lives. Many Japanese sailors refused to serve on merchant vessels after witnessing the destructive power of American submarine wolf packs. The psychological trauma extended beyond individual experiences to affect the entire Japanese maritime community. Commander O'Kane's tactical innovations during the convoy attack influenced submarine doctrine throughout the remainder of the war. His emphasis on coordinated operations and simultaneous attacks became standard procedure for Pacific Fleet submarines. The lessons learned from the Luzon Strait engagement were incorporated into training programs for new submarine crews. The convoy disaster marked the beginning of the end for Japanese merchant shipping in the Pacific. Subsequent attempts to maintain supply lines to the Philippines and other occupied territories faced overwhelming submarine opposition. American wolf packs had demonstrated their ability to destroy any convoy, regardless of size or escort strength, leading to the virtual paralysis of Japanese logistics. The men who fought in submarine warfare rarely received the recognition given to surface fleet actions or carrier aviation, but their contribution to victory proved equally significant. Operations like the Luzon Strait attack required exceptional courage and skill, conducted in the dangerous isolation of submarine combat. These underwater warriors had struck a decisive blow against Japanese capability to continue the war. The echo of that October night in 1944 would resonate through the remaining months of the Pacific War. 15 ships lay scattered across the ocean floor, their cargoes lost forever, their crews mostly dead or wounded. The submarine wolf packs had demonstrated that American naval power could reach anywhere in the Pacific, destroying Japanese hopes of maintaining their overseas empire. The ocean itself had become America's ally in the struggle for victory, hiding the submarines that slowly but relentlessly squeezed the life from Japanese resistance. In the dark waters of Luzon Strait, the Japanese Empire had lost more than ships and supplies. They had lost the war itself.